Hey everyone, it's day 8 of my 100-day challenge, and last time I left you, at that point I was living in Panama City, Florida. Michael has not now gone home. I was off Paxil, and I was drinking a lot of alcohol. And of course, this is where I'm going to say once again, please start at the beginning of my videos so you know what I'm talking about, and you can get caught up on the story. I was alone for probably a couple of days. We had some mutual friends that we had met down there, but I was very alone again. And then things changed. I started going out, drinking more, got a lot of friends. I ended up having a drag queen move in with me. His name was Keenan, but his drag name was Miss Rebecca Ritz DiCarlo. And everything went fine, and this was now, I think Michael moved home in May or June of 2001. Yeah, 2001. And we had a good time. I mean, we drank, we went to parties, we went to bars, everything was really great. Well, of course it wasn't great, but it seemed great at the time. And we decided to move to Atlanta. Both Keenan and I, or Miss Rebecca, or however you want to refer to him, her. And we did. We moved to Atlanta, Georgia, September 1st of 2001. And my mother, of course, is like, well, what are you going to do there? You know, how's everything going to be? I'm like, well, there's tons of jobs. And there was tons of jobs. And I thought, well, I'll take 2 weeks. And what I'll do is get to know the city, and then I'll look for a job. I just want to, find my place here. Well, of course, as we all know, the 11th of September, that year in 2001, 9/11, of course, happened with the Trade Centers and the Pentagon. And the next day, on September 12th, there was no jobs in Atlanta. Everyone was very scared, and the temp agency stopped hiring. Fox News, which is in Fox Sports, I should say, which is in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, was not hiring. CNN was not hiring. The Weather Channel, the CDC, all of which are in Atlanta, were no longer hiring. So I had no job. And instead of dealing with reality, what I did is I drank more. I went to bars in Atlanta, Backstreet, Blake's, Swinging Richards. I went to bathhouses, Southeastern Meat Company, all those places to basically delude myself. I wasn't aware that I was deluding myself, but that's exactly what I was doing. And some of the bars down there, because they were on a grandfather clause, would stay open 24 hours a day. So I could literally come out of a bar, it'd be 10:30 in the morning, take a taxi back to my apartment, because I had no car. There's so much more to the story. I had a car accident in Florida right before we moved, and so I didn't have a car. It was not from drinking. It was just simply a 16-year-old girl ran a stop sign and hit my car. And anyway, it was being repaired, and then it was going to be brought up to Atlanta, Georgia for me. So anyway, to make a long story short, eventually Keenan and I fell apart as far as friends, and he wasn't 21 yet, and I was over 21, and he was mad that I was going out all the time and leaving him there alone, which I can understand now, and he went home, basically. I mean, he lived with his cousin in Atlanta for a little while, but then he went home. And then I got a job at a hotel inside CNN, which is the Omni Hotel, inside CNN Center, and I worked there for a few months, but the alcohol was really taking me down. I really couldn't hold a job, and I would drink before I got there, and I would always take MARTA. It's a MARTA, I believe, which is their subway system in Atlanta, Georgia, and I would take the subway to work and home from work. And I couldn't do it, and they weren't really paying me enough, and I was drinking, and I was sick all the time, and I started taking Paxil again, but then I got sick from that and stopped taking Paxil, and everything was a mess. And so in April of 2002, I moved back to New York. I stayed with my parents for a while, and then I couldn't, because being with my parents, as much as I love them, we're different. We're too much of different people. And of course, also, how am I going to drink and hook up with as many people I was, hooking up with if I'm living with my parents? So I moved to downtown area of where I live, and I had this apartment where all I had was a blow-up bed, an alarm clock, my computer on a card table, and a 13-inch television screen on the floor. That's it. Well, my blanket, of course, for the blow-up bed. And it was infested with mice. And every night, I would wrap myself so tight in that blanket because the mice would run over me all night long. And I stayed in that apartment for a year. And I stayed there until I couldn't stay there anymore. One day the police came and they gave me a ticket to go to a homeless shelter because they were going to condemn the building. The people in New York City who had owned the building were getting rid of it, and the bank was repossessing it, and there was no electricity at this point. There was no running water for the last month I was there, and so you have to think about the toilet. I had a bucket. Literally, I had a bucket. And there was a public trash can outside. And that's how I lived for an entire year of my life. Drinking, parties, mice, no water, no electricity for part of that time. And I became tired, and I thought, what do I do? I can't afford to live here. I only had temp jobs at that point. Anxiety was still in full effect. Panic attacks were still happening. I really could not hold a job, and mixed with the alcohol, the anxiety, it was too much. And I didn't want to move back in with my parents. So I moved back to Panama City, Florida. And that's where I met my current boyfriend. Keith is my current boyfriend. And my agoraphobia got worse. He was a blessing, but I got worse. I, since that point, have stayed inside. And the whole time that I was in Florida for 2.5 years, I was pretty much inside. Still drinking, stopping drinking. I stopped for a month. I got a job at one point at a motel that's now been knocked down because they built a condo in that area. But for the most part, I was inside. And every person I've met, no matter where I've been, has been a very negative person. I surround myself with drug addicts, drug dealers, promiscuous people, and I realize now I've created that. I have created all these people to come into my life. Well, I guess that's where I'm going to leave you for now, because I want to leave you back with me in Panama City again, but this is the second time, so I can explain how now I got back to New York. And that's where we can probably pretty much take off into what I want for change in my life with the 100-Day Challenge. So right now, last thing you know, Panama City with my new boyfriend Keith, agoraphobic, staying inside, no more job, having to face reality very soon, money's running out, getting too old to do the porn, not in my 20s anymore. I could probably pull it off if I worked out really hard, but didn't have the energy. So that's where I'll leave you for now. I'll talk to you later. Bye.